Minister Araghchi, we thank you for your time. Who is in charge of Iran right now?
Well, thank you, Tom, for having me in your program. Well, I think the system is working very well. We have lost the supreme leader, but according to our constitution, there is now a council which takes charge of his duties, and then the president, the cabinet, ministers, everybody is in its position. So the system is working very well, and everybody, is in charge.
We know that there's been a council. We know that there's been a council to fulfill the duties of the supreme leader, but we also know that there's a selection process in play to pick the next Ayatollah. There are reports that Ayatollah Khamenei's son is a front runner. Is that true?
Well, actually, I don't, exact information. There are many rumors around, but we have to wait for the assembly of experts to choose the new supreme leader, and those experts are elected themselves by the people long ago, or every 6 years, and they will do their duty to elect the supreme leader. There are, as I said, there are many rumors, but nobody knows exactly who might be elected at the end of the day.
If there is no Ayatollah yet, let me ask this again. If there's no Ayatollah selected yet, do you know when that new Ayatollah will be selected? Well,
there is a procedure set by the Constitution, and it may take some days to be finalized. Of course, we are not in an ordinary situation. There is a war going on, an imposed war on us is going on. And there are, extraordinary measures taken for the sake of security. So it may take a bit longer, but the process is going on, and it is up to the assembly to finally decide.
The world saw your battleship sunk in the Indian Ocean. Dozens of Iranian sailors died. Your response was, quote, "Mark my words, the U.S. will come to bitterly regret the precedent it has set." So what is Iran going to do? And at this point, given the state of your military right now, what can you do?
Well, first of all, that was a training training ship, which was invited by the Indian Navy to take part in an exercise. And they went there as their guests, the Indians' guests, and they, did participate in that exercise, and they were in their way back home, and the ship was unarmed. So attacking an unarmed ship full of training officers and sailors is a war crime, I have to say.
What type of battleship? Minister, excuse me, but what type of military would allow a battleship into the ocean with no weapons on board?
Well, because it was, the goal was not, their aim was not going to war. They went for an exercise, which was arranged by the Indian Navy. There are so many other guests who went there, and they, took part in a parade. And, everything was a peaceful, training course or peaceful training process. So they didn't need, weapons. They actually went to that mission long before the war started. And when I said that the U.S. would regret that, I meant that they have, the U.S. have unfortunately set a precedent which is, against the international law and would actually damage the whole concept of international, law of seas. When an unarmed, ship is attacked with no reason, and a big number of sailors are killed without taking part in any battle, that would set a precedent. And
the U.S. The U.S. says it controls the skies, that Iran's ballistic missile attacks have dropped more than 80%. The U.S. has hit over 2,000 Iranian targets. The Pentagon says America is winning decisively. Do you think they're wrong?
Well, I think, now 6 days after the war, it is clear that the U.S. has failed to achieve its main goal, which was a clean, rapid victory. They failed to achieve that, and now they are trying to justify why they did attack us, and they have, presented so many different reasons, but none of them worked. And now they are talking about, Plan B, and I believe that, their Plan B would be even a bigger failure. So they are controlling our sky. But at the moment,
Minister, your supreme leader was killed. Your top military leaders were killed. Your military installations have been bombed. How can you call that a failure?
Well, then what they have achieved? What was their goal? They came here for a regime change, perhaps. They came here for a rapid victory, so they can, control everything. But they have failed. The system is working. The commanders have been replaced, and the supreme leader is going to be replaced soon, according to the procedures set by the Constitution. So everything is in order. Yes, we have been targeted, but we have also have attacked so many targets in Israel, and so many targets belongs to the Americans, their assets, their bases, their installations in the region. And, they have not been able to prevent those attacks. Our missiles are still working. Our missiles are still in place and hitting their targets in a very precise manner. So,
Minister, can Iran win this war? If I can ask you, can Iran win this war, and what does winning look like for Iran?
Well, there is no winner in this war. Our win is to be able to resist against, their illegal, goals. And this is what we have done so far. So they have failed to achieve their goals, and we have been able to resist against them, to stand against the most powerful army of the world, as they claim, together with, Israelis, who are also claim to have the big army. Two of them are nuclear armed, but still the people of Iran, the armed forces of Iran, have been able to stand firm against them. They couldn't, stop us firing missiles to Israel and to other destinations. We are doing very well, and they have not been able to stop us. So this is our win.
Yeah,
and I don't think they can be a winner at the end of the day.
Minister, explain to us and to the world, really, Iran has chosen to attack at least 10 other countries, many of them your Arab neighbors. None of them were involved in this war. Why are you attacking your Muslim neighbors during the holy month of Ramadan?
Oh, please don't mistake. We have not attacked our neighbors. We have not attacked Muslim countries. We have attacked Americans' targets and Americans' bases, Americans' installations, which are unfortunately located in the soils of our neighbors. So we have made it clear for them. I have been in touch with their foreign ministers, and I have explained that we are not targeting you. We have no problem with you. We are only targeting the American installations and American bases. And the reason is obvious.
But Minister, Iran is hitting civilian targets, striking hotels, high-rise apartments, airports in many of these countries. Those are not military targets.
Well, no, we have targeted very well. The Americans are. Maybe there have been some collateral damages, as it is in every war. Look, more than 70,000 people were killed in Gaza by Israelis, and Israeli army called all of them collateral damage. So yes, there is the possibility of collateral damages in this situation as well. This is what we have warned everybody in the region beforehand, that if the U.S. attack us, we have no way but to attack their installations, which are in your territories, and then everything may go out of hand, and the war would become a disaster for the whole region. This is what we have warned, and many others have warned, and many Americans have also warned the U.S. administration, do not repeat the same mistake. They have done it before in our region, and this is what they have done. This war is not our war. This is not our choice. This is a war of choice by the United States, and they should be held responsible for all those damages.
Minister, NATO said they shot down an Iranian missile, which Turkey says was in its airspace. Are you creating new enemies every single day?
Well, we have, our military has denied firing any missile to either Turkey or
There's
Azerbaijan.
video of the missile. There's video of the missile on the ground. NATO has said this was fired by Iran.
Well, there is no reason why we should fire, a missile to Turkey, which is a good neighbor of us. Also, there is no reason to fire, drones to Azerbaijan. We are investigating what has gone wrong regarding these missiles or drones. Maybe they have come from other places. Maybe something has gone wrong, but we have no intention at all to attack Turkey or Azerbaijan or any other neighbor, any other country in our neighborhood. But we would certainly target Americans' bases and Americans' installations in the region wherever they are.
Minister, you just said that you had threatened before this started that the battlefield would expand if Iran was attacked. You are expanding the battlefield. Several countries, as I mentioned, have been hit. Is Iran's goal here to attack these other countries so they try to pressure the United States to stop bombing Iran?
No, this is not our goal. Our war is with the U.S. U.S. is attacking us on a daily basis, on an hourly basis, and we are defending ourselves. How we can defend ourselves when we cannot reach the American soil? What we can, attack to are American bases which are around us in the region, and they are scattered all around the region. And this is the natural, consequences of this war. This is because of the nature of this war. The U.S. is attacking us. They are killing our people. They are hitting our schools. In only one case, 171 school girls, students were killed by an American attack. Now they attacked our hospitals. Today they attacked sport stadium, and even they have started to attack our municipalities, local police stations, everything. So how we can protect ourselves, how we can defend ourselves by attacking American facilities and assets in the region wherever they are. So this is now,
Minister, Minister, you yourself are painting a very dire picture of what the situation looks like in Iran. Government buildings bombed, even sports stadiums bombed out, police stations bombed. How much longer can Iran hold on?
Well, we defend ourselves as long as it takes. It is obvious we are the victim of the act of aggression, and what we are doing is self-defense, and we have every right to defend ourselves. And at the same time, we have been able to hit targets in Israel and American bases, and they have also received bad damages. And there are footings of the damages they have been received. There has been damages. So this is a war, of course, and there are so many damages in both sides in any war.
But Minister, the damages obviously in Iran are much worse, right? We're talking about maybe a dozen victims outside of Iran, including 6 U.S. service members, whereas in Iran there are reports of nearly 1,000 people killed in Iran, and all those government installations, your government leadership, the government infrastructure, the buildings. This is not an equal battle right now. Would you agree to that?
Well, look at the damages inside Israel as well. They have badly hit by us. Of course, they are in control of their media, so they don't publish, the footages of the damages. But this is a war. But we have received, yes, damages, but we are not, the one who actually, we are the one who defend our dignity, and our dignity is important than anything else, and our independence, and we pay any price needed to protect our sovereignty and our territorial integrity and our dignity. And this is what we are doing right now. And this is what we did last time in June 2025, when for 12 years we resisted, and we finally forced our enemy to request for an unconditional ceasefire. And this is going to be repeated this time as well. when they can. When
so wait,
they,
Minister, please, yes, if you could just explain there. Are you saying Iran is going to request a ceasefire?
No, we didn't ask ceasefire even last time. In previous time, it was Israel who asked for a ceasefire. They asked for an unconditional ceasefire after 12 days. That we resisted against, against their aggression. In the first days of war, they wanted us to surround. They wanted capitulation, but we continued defending ourselves. We continued hitting them by our missiles, and then it was them who first asked the United States to help them, and then they asked for an unconditional ceasefire. It was Israel who asked for ceasefire, not us. Again,
but
this
Minister,
time,
to be fair, Minister, to be fair, Iran signaled that it was going to stop firing as well. To be fair, you did signal that, Minister.
No. I never signaled that last time or this time. It was Israel who asked for a ceasefire, and we were fighting. And it was Americans who contacted me and asking to stop the war. If they told me that Israel is ready to stop, its aggression, and they asked us that please you will stop as well, and we accepted last time. But this is not going to be repeated this time. It is not like that. That's every year they attack us and they kill our people, they destroy places, and then ask for a ceasefire. No, this time is different. This time there should be the end of war and hostility. We don't accept ceasefire unless they accept their responsibility for the damages they have made to us, and then they guarantee that this scenario is not going to be repeated in the future. So this time is different. We resist to the end, and we can we don't ask for a ceasefire right now, and this is our position, and we have never signaled any ceasefire to Americans. We have never sent any
Minister,
messages.
just to be clear, Minister, to be clear, I want to make sure I understand you here. Right now, you're saying Iran does not want a ceasefire.
We are not asking for a ceasefire, and we don't see any reason why we should negotiate with the U.S. When we negotiated with them twice, and every time they attacked us at the middle of negotiations. So there is no request for a ceasefire by us, and there is no request for the negotiation with the U.S. From us. We have never sent any messages to them.
Minister, you said that Iran cannot reach U.S. soil, right, the American homeland, with the weapons that you have right now. Is there any other way that Americans should be concerned that Iran could attack the American homeland?
No, they have enough bases around us. Why we should go further than that? They have enough soldiers, they have enough, military assets, and they have enough military bases and military installations. So we don't need to go beyond that.
The Strait of Hormuz hasn't been closed, but the threat of its closure has disrupted the international economy. If this war continues, will Iran try to close the Strait of Hormuz?
But they have not closed it. It is the ships and tankers who don't try to pass through to cross the strait because they are, concerned about being hit by either side. So we have no intention to close it right now. But as the war continues, we will consider every scenario. For the time being, we have not done yet. And but the strait is, almost empty of ships and tankers because of their concern.
In this war, are international oil tankers potential targets for Iran?
No. Why they should be a goal for us?
Iran threatened tankers in the Strait of Hormuz. Iran has already threatened them to set them afire.
No, we have not threatened them. They are concerned themselves, and they don't use the Strait of Hormuz because of the concerns they have to be hit by either side.
Is Iran privately talking to U.S. officials right now through back channels?
No.
There's no communication with you and Steve Witkoff or Jared Kushner?
No, not after Thursday that we met last time. We met last Thursday. We negotiated for almost 7 hours. They were so happy when they left the negotiation table because we were able to make significant progress, as the Omani foreign minister said in his statement, and he checked his statement with both sides, and both sides agreed with the term he used. And we were made really significant progress. They were happy when they left, but I don't know what happened after they left, Geneva. And
President Trump has said, excuse me, Minister, President Trump has said that Iran simply would not agree to a basic premise, which was they would not try to build a nuclear weapon. President Trump has said that. Is that your understanding of where the talks failed?
Well, no, it's really not understandable, I don't understand why President Trump repeating that. We have said it, in many different occasions. It is said by the late Supreme Leader. It is said by our president in many, many occasions. And I repeated that in the negotiations. And actually, the first principle we agreed was that Iran would never, ever go for nuclear weapons based on its, security doctrine and based on the fatwa of the Supreme Leader. I said it many times, and I told them that this could be the first sentence in any deal that Iran commit itself not to go for nuclear weapons. And that is a permanent commitment, no sunset. This is something I have told them very clearly and very explicitly. So this is out of question. We were,
and Minister, would you on that point, if that is the promise you made, on that point, would Iran allow inspectors to all of its nuclear facilities and to allow inspectors to do their jobs, which it prevented last time?
Of course, we are ready to give full access to the agency for their verification and monitoring. This is what we have done in the past. We are a committed member of NPT. The only time we have not let inspectors to come and visit is after the last June, attack in our nuclear facilities. And we told
Minister, the inspectors even said before that started that they were not being allowed full access. They said that to the world. That is documented.
No, this is not. Show me that document. Before the war, last year war, we gave the agency access based on our commitments in the NPT and in the safeguard agreement. After the war, we told the agency that there should be a new protocol how to investigate, how to inspect and attack nuclear facility. Because the agency told us itself that there is no protocol, because there is no precedent, so there is no modality, there is no protocol how to inspect a facility which is bombed. And, a nuclear facility which is bombed needs, some, parameters before they inspect that. There is the risk of, radiation, the risk of, environmental problems, the risk of unexploded materials. So we needed a modality, and we were engaged with the agency to achieve that modality. So beside that,
on that point, Minister, is Iran's nuclear facilities secure right now? Is Iran's nuclear stockload right now, is that secure as well?
Well, our stockpile is under the rubbles. We have not touched them after the last June war. And we have always told, our interlocutors and also the agency that when we achieve a deal, the first thing we can do is to let to retreat the material out of the rubbles under the supervision and under the monitoring of the agency, so they can verify what is the latest situation of our material. Look, we are a committed member of NPT, and our program is peaceful, and we have no problem to build confidence about the peaceful nature of our program. This is what I told our American interlocutors as well, that when we come to a deal, we make sure that Iran would never go for nuclear weapon. We make sure that the agency could have full verification and we give access to them. So we don't.
As you know, President Trump disagrees with you there. I do want to get back to the war, though. Yes, Minister, we can. President Trump has not. President Trump has not ruled out boots on the ground in Iran. Are you afraid of a U.S. invasion in your country?
No, we are waiting for them.
You are waiting for the U.S. military to invade, the ground troops?
Yes, because we are confident that we can confront them, and that would be a big disaster for them.
So you're saying that Iran is ready and willing to take on the U.S. military if there were to be ground troops?
Well, we were ready for this war even more than the previous war. So you can see, the quality of our missiles, how much they are upgraded after the last war, because we learned lots of lessons. And we are prepared for any other eventuality, even, a ground invasion. So our soldiers are prepared for any scenario. When I said that we are waiting for them, it didn't mean that we are waiting for continuation of the war. No, but we have prepared ourselves to confront with any scenario, with any eventuality, any possibility, and we know that we can handle that.
Are your allies Russia and China helping you?
Well, they are supporting us politically and otherwise.
Are they supporting you militarily?
Well, military cooperation between Iran and Russia is not a secret. We have worked with each other in the past, and that has continued, and will continue, I guess.
And they are actively helping you in this war?
Well, they have always helped us.
So I'm gonna understand that to mean yes, that they are actively assisting you in this war?
Well, I'm not going to give the details of our cooperation with other countries right in the middle of the war.
Inside Iran right now, we've heard that the government is cutting off the internet. Why are you closing off information for the Iranian population while this crisis is unfolding?
Well, this is not the case. Almost, all Iranians have access to social networks. In some cases, for security reasons, we have, cut access to internet. Please do not forget that we are in the middle of a war, a very extensive war, and war has its own, rules and procedures.
But why cut off communication when people in your country maybe need information to get to safety?
Well, communication is not cut. All social networks are working here, and people are connected. As I said, sometimes because of security reasons, in order to protect our people and protect our facilities, we may cut access to internet. But as I said, we are in the middle of a war, and we have every right to exercise some limits in order to protect our interests.
We know the people in Iran have gotten texts from the government saying not to go out on the streets. Are you afraid that the government will be overthrown?
No, we haven't sent those messages. Of course, when there are the possibility of bombardments, the possibility of attacks by American or Israeli fighters, we ask people to remain in their shelters, to remain at their places, not to go to the dangerous sites. That is quite normal. Again, we are in war, and we have to be careful about the security of our people.
You saw those massive protests. The world saw the protests as well. There were reports that tens of thousands, up to 42,000 Iranians were arrested, hundreds killed, even children imprisoned. Is Iran right now at a critical point, and is the government nervous that the end is near?
Well, we are not nervous at all. We had 10 days of protests in early January, and then for 3 days from 8 to 10, we had terrorist operation, and we were able to handle that. We were able to take care of that, and it was finished and over. And since then, we have a very peaceful environment. Don't look at those gatherings or demonstrations outside of Iran, but inside of Iran, everything is in order. And life was going on before the Americans attack us. And now people are, in support of the government and system. We have now more social solidarity amongst the people. You can see many people in the streets either during the night and day and night for mourning ceremonies for the late Supreme Leader. So we have no problem at all, and we are not nervous at all.
We've seen that the children's school was struck in Iran. We know that more than 150 people have died. Many of them were children. The U.S. says it's investigating. Do you have any evidence about where this missile came from? Well,
the details are investigating by our army, but it is clear that the school was hit by Americans, and that is a war crime to hit.
How can you say that? Do you have evidence that you can show the world?
Well, I have to ask our military to do that. And
how do you know it was a U.S. missile?
Well, this is what our military said. So it is either U.S. or Israel. What is the difference?
It couldn't be a wayward Iranian missile, an Iranian missile launch that made a mistake?
Our mistake? No, even the United States authorities confessed that it was them who attacked this facility. So just look at
the U.S. military hasn't. The U.S. military hasn't said that yet. They said they're investigating.
So they are investigating, and they will. They have to admit that it was they who targeted this school.
Okay. Right now, I'm being told by our producers that eyewitnesses are saying there are multiple explosions that can be heard in Tehran. At this moment, do you hear those happening?
Well, I didn't hear right now. Yes, I have heard those explosions before, but right now that we are speaking, I didn't hear that.
You haven't heard that. And have you gotten any updates about the latest damage in Tehran today and tonight?
Well, as I was told by our authorities, today they have hit some municipalities and some military installations. But that is quite understandable. We are at war, and this is what we do with Israelis and American military bases, and they are attacking us as well. No, look, again, I have to emphasize, we are defending ourselves against the aggression by Americans and Israelis. That is the act of aggression against us. It is unwarranted, unprovoked, illegal, and unjustified. And what we are doing is absolutely legal and legitimate.
As we sit here and talk, Minister, so much of Iran's leadership has been killed. Do you fear for your own life?
Well, everybody may fear for his life in the time of war. But, I am doing my job. I am doing my duty. And I would be, honored if my blood is shed for the sake of my country. But for the time being, there is no fear of that. Well, we have, we have taken enough, measures to protect ourselves, and well, I am doing my duty to protect the interests of my country, and I will continue to do that.
Can you confirm, is former President Mahmoud Ahmadinejad still alive?
Well, to be honest with you, I don't have any exact information. I heard some rumors 3-4 days ago that he might have been, hit by missiles, but I don't have any exact information.
Has no one in the Iranian government heard from him? Nobody can confirm he's still alive?
You are talking about Mr. Ahmadinejad?
Yes.
Yeah, as I said, I don't have any exact information.
Minister, the White House will likely see this interview. What is your message to President Trump?
Well, my message is that their plan A to achieve a clean, rapid victory in Iran has failed. We heard that they are thinking of plan B. I'm sure the plan B would even a bigger failure. they lost the opportunity of reaching a deal, a good deal. They lost it for, I don't know, reasons, different reasons. So there is no way that they can win this war. As long as it takes, we resist. So they better to stop this war and stop killing our people.
Do you have a message for the American people?
Well, for the American people, this is an absolutely unnecessary war. They are dragged to by those who want Israel first and America last.
Who is directing the military right now, Minister?
Who is doing what?
Who is directing the military?
Well, there are commanders in their places. All those who have been martyred have been replaced by another, military commander. So everybody, all those posts are, the commanders are in their posts.
Okay, two more questions. Axios, a media company in the U.S., is reporting that President Trump says he wants to be personally involved in choosing who leads Iran next. What do you say to that?
That is absolutely the business of Iranian people. And nobody can interfere.
Minister, can you're still there, right? You can still hear me?
Yes, I can hear you. Did you hear what I said?
Yes. I heard what you said. Thank you. This will be our final question here. You just said a few minutes ago that there will be no more deal. Is Iran done forever negotiating with the Trump administration?
Well, the fact is that we don't have any positive experience of negotiating with the United States. Especially with this administration. We negotiated twice, last year and this year, and then in the middle of negotiations, they attacked us. We negotiated a deal in 2015. After a while, the US decided to withdraw with no reason, no justification. So we don't have any single, good experience of negotiating with the United States. So we see no reason why we should engage once again with those who are not honest in negotiation, and they do not enter into negotiation in good faith.
Minister, we thank you for your time. I hope we can speak again in the coming days and weeks.
I hope so. Thank you. Thank you for having me.
Thank you.
We thank you for watching, and remember, stay updated on breaking news and top stories on the NBC News app or watch live on our YouTube channel.